We've looked at the top 5 best and worst units in Shogun 2, but I decided not to include any clan specific or DLC units. Now it's time for their 15 minutes of fame. Hi, my name is MrSmartDonkey and welcome to the first part of my personal top 15 unique units in Shogun 2. To avoid confusion, allow me to clarify which units I will cover in this top 15. I've included every single unit that is unique to a single clan except for the Ikko Ronin units, because they're the slightly altered samurai and I didn't figure they were worth covering. In that same vein, I have also not included any of the units that have only received slight buffs for certain clans, like the Shimazu Katana Samurai. Lastly, I have not included any of the hero units as I aim to cover those in a different video, plus they're not unique to any clan, so they wouldn't have fit in this list anyway. Before we get into the list, I feel it necessary to mention I have judged these units not based purely on their strength, but on several factors, including but not limited to the unit's price and more importantly upkeep, their building requirements and their usefulness relative to similar units. This list will be based exclusively off experience in campaign, so I do not recommend using this list as a guideline for multiplayer. Now that that's all out of the way, let's get started with number 15, Hojo Hand Mortars. There are very few good things to say about the Hojo Hand Mortars. Their range is 300, so that's pretty good. Sadly, that's where the positives end though. They might have 300 range, but they don't have the damage to actually make use of that range. Their accuracy is low, meaning that they miss most of their shots, and even when they do hit, the damage is so incredibly low it barely kills anyone. If you see my top 5 worst units in Shogun 2, you will know that I placed Firebomb Throwers on the number 2 spot. The Hojo Hand Mortars are kinda like a long range version of that, which sounds better, but for all the Firebomb Throwers' faults, they at least hit their targets. The same cannot be said for the Hojo Hand Mortars. If you really want a similar long range unit, I recommend the Hojo Fire Rockets. It only has slightly lower range, but the damage it deals is infinitely better, and it's a great counter to cavalry to boot. Next up at number 14 I have placed the HATTORI Bandits. They fit the HATTORI Kisho training theme well, but beyond that they're a terrible unit. They're surprisingly difficult to recruit in a campaign, needing both an archery dojo as well as a criminal syndicate. They're worse than Boa Shigara in a straight up 1v1 because of their lower numbers. Their strength lies in their ability to hide almost anywhere and remain hidden whilst firing, but this is a fairly pointless ability to have in the campaign due to the AI usually focusing your melee infantry anyway. By which I mean that whether your archers are hidden or not, the AI will ignore them either way. Especially because of their ridiculous building requirements, I would never recommend using them. Literally any other bow unit in the game will do better than them, so there's plenty of alternatives. Small side note, numbers 15 and 14 are exceptionally bad in my opinion. All units from this point on are miles better than those, so even though a unit might be low in this list, that doesn't mean I think it's a bad unit, just relative to other units in this list. At number 13 I have placed the Ikko Matchlock Warrior Monks. Its placement mostly dictated by the building requirements. The Jodo Shinzu Monastery isn't too bad, since it's generally on the path for most of your strong units anyway, but that is much less the case with the Gunsmith. Having to invest extremely far in the master of the art for what is in essence a single unit, not counting the horrible Ikko Matchlock Ashigaru, just isn't worth it. In fairness, it's the best unit of its kind, since the Ikko do not get any other Matchlock units, so if you're determined to get Matchlock as the Ikko, the Matchlock Warrior Monks are the best in the business. To me it's just not worth the investment, especially since the Ikko have access to one of the best Bow Warrior Monk units in the game. All that being said, the Ikko Matchlock Warrior Monks are a strong unit, the second best non-hero Matchlock in the game in my opinion. They will beat Matchlock Samurai and only get beaten by Portuguese Turcos in the 1v1. Do keep in mind they don't have access to the rapid reload skill, but in return get a generally high reload stat. They also have the increased range ability, allowing them to start firing against incoming units just a little sooner. If they were easier to recruit in the campaign, I would likely have placed them much higher on this list. Coming in at number 12 are the Yusugi and Ikko Marathon Monks. This is the only unit in the list to not be entirely unique to one clan, but they are unique enough to warrant a spot on this list. Their building requirements are reasonable, a monastery for the Yusugi, Jodo Shinzu Monastery for the Ikko, and a Proving Grounds building. The only downside of this is that the requirement dictates your army style. Proving Grounds gives plus 5 charge bonus to all units recruited in that province, meaning you're almost forced to go for an aggressive type army. An aggressive playstyle does suit the Marathon Monks very much due to their second wind ability, but besides that ability they are worse than Yusugi and Ikko Naginata Warrior Monks. They have a lower melee attack as well as a smaller unit size. If you're going to use Marathon Monks, you'd only ever want 2 in each army, purely for the second wind ability because it is incredibly valuable. Building each army around those 2 units however isn't worth it. The ability is good, but not that good. If you can find a way to recruit them in a different province so that the rest of your army can gain upgrades other than the charge bonus, I would definitely recommend giving them a try. But otherwise they're not good enough, just use more Naginata Warrior Monks, they're better in almost every aspect. The final unit featured in this list at number 11 are the CHOSOKABE DAIKYU Samurai. A solid archer unit whose power is somewhere between a bow samurai and a bow warrior monk. Their building requirements aren't too crazy, only needing an archery dojo and a hunting lodge, which you would want to build in your ranged recruitment province anyway. When compared to the CHOSOKABE bow samurai, they're better in almost every aspect. They have higher range as well as accuracy. Their reload skill is lower, but not by much, and not to the point where that will matter in most battles. Compared to CHOSOKABE bow warrior monks, they have the same range but lower reload skill and accuracy. They do have higher armor, which actually wins them the 1v1, but this isn't a fair comparison due to the Bow Warrior Monk's glass cannon-esque stats. As I mentioned earlier, the AI tends to ignore your archers in favor of firing at your melee infantry. When you take this into account, the Bow Warrior Monks will dish out more damage with each volley. This is the main reason I've placed them this low in the list. I don't tend to use both samurai very often, but I'm a huge fan of Bow Warrior Monks, and they are still the better option, making CHOSOKABE DAIKYU samurai almost obsolete. That being said, I could see myself putting a few of them in my armies to mix things up a little. That is going to do it for the first part of my top 15 unique units in Shogun 2. Next part we'll be going over the numbers 10 through 6. I hope I'll see you again then. Thank you very much for watching, hope you've enjoyed, have a good day and goodbye.